Hello, everybody, and thank you all for joining us today. We'll begin in just a moment as there are still a few people logging in, and I want to give everybody a chance to get settled. Thank you. Hello, everybody. Caresoft would like to welcome you to our webinar, Integration with Privileged Access Management. Before we get started, I'd like to go over a few housekeeping items. We hope that you will ask questions using the Q&A pod at the bottom of your screen, and we'll do our best to answer all of your questions at the end of the presentation. If for some reason we don't get to your question today, the SailPoint team here at Caresoft will follow up with you afterwards offline. Caresoft Technology is a trusted government IT solutions provider delivering software and support solutions to federal, state, and local agencies. Caresoft maintains dedicated teams to support sales and marketing for all of its vendors, including SailPoint. Our contact information will be displayed at the end of the presentation, and a copy of the webinar will be emailed to you. At this time, I'd like to introduce our speakers for today. Matt Topper, President and Solutions Catalyst, and Zach Reed, Solutions Catalyst and Privileged Access Guru at Uber Ether. Matt, the floor is all yours.
Thank you. So let me get my share screen rolling right now. There we go. So welcome back, everyone, for the next in our series here. So this week, we're going to talk a little bit about doing privileged access management the right way. Right. PAM is a pretty mature topic in the world of identity and access management and security now. But I will say, there's a lot of ways to do it. Today I've got one of my favorite people with me, Zach Reed from our team. Zach is incredibly passionate about privileged access management and has some great history building things out. So as we get rolling, just a reminder, Uber Ether, 25 plus engineers focused on identity and security services. Last week was actually our 10th company anniversary. So we've been around a while, and we are in the midst of building out a FedRAMP High Impact Level 5 managed SaaS platform for identity, where a lot of the vendors we've talked about, including SailPoint, are pre-integrated to help you actually move your agency's missions forward. So as we said, Matt Topper, President of Solutions Catalyst. Zach Reed's with me today. He's been with us for about 18 months now and comes from a pretty large organization with, I think it's something like $40 billion in assets that you'll be amazed how they started managing privileged access management and where the journey Zach took them on over the last few years. But so some interesting stats. And these just came out last week. So they are fresh from the Identity-Defined Security Alliance. 79% of organizations have had an identity-related breach in the last 2 years. That's a pretty astounding number. I think if you go back 5 years, the stat said something in the high 90s. Right? The joke is hackers don't break in anymore. They just log in. But organizations with forward-thinking security cultures only have 34% of identity-related breaches. I think we could all go to our senior management and say, hey, if we invest in identity and access management, it will cut our risk of identity-related breaches, which are over 90% of the breaches that are happening today, in half. It'd be a pretty easy story. So, I mean, and let's be honest, it only takes one. Is it too soon to talk about a single VPN account that was left open after an employee left and shut down a major pipeline over the last few weeks. Sadly, that's what we're up against in the identity and access management and privilege access management space. It truly only takes one account to compromise an entire organization. So, and the worst part is it's a spider web. And I don't think a lot of organizations, when they're looking at their privileged access management problems, really understand the complexities. Within all of the applications and services we deploy, we've got the networks they run on, we've got the operating systems, we have the databases, we have the application servers, we have the directories that we use to authenticate and authorize people against. We have the devices that our people are logging in with and identifying the people themselves. Everywhere up and down that line, we have privileged access. And within those, many times, there's multiple layers of privileged access that needs to be managed. And if you multiply that across any large organization, it truly becomes this spider web of privileges and permissions and entitlements to different types of users and different types of devices and right IoT, RPA, service to service. The complexities are just expanding. So I will be quiet now and introduce you all to Zach Reed from our team. So I mentioned Zach joined us about 1.5 years ago and is one of the most passionate people about privileged access management and integrating it in a healthy way within your organization. I think you will truly enjoy a little bit of his background story and some of the really amazing things he's been building over his career, and most recently his focus within the privileged space. So Zach, I'll be quiet and turn it over to you.
Thank you. Matt, can you hear me okay?
Yep, all good. I was just too quick on the mute button.
Excellent. All right. So thank you, Matt. I have an experience about 15 years into the field, both integrating privileged access and also IGA tools, both Greenfield and Lift and Shift. So I wanted to give you some pointers and tidbits to kind of save you some time from lessons learned that I've had over my career in implementing these. So I just want to start off with like a story. So this is me. I was young and naive. I'm relaxed. I was an admin for one of the world's largest mortgage and financial firms. And I started off with basically our telecom team saying, hey, Zach, can you give me this location code? Can you give me this employee number? Because we're trying to onboard over 200 people every week because they're making over 100 calls a day. So there was all these people contacted me nonstop just to get basic employee information. So I thought, that's stopping me from, doing other work. So let me see if I can kind of give them the information that they need. So I designed a tool to basically dip into our employee data from the different sources that we had for identity data and provide them the information. So they didn't have to take the time to reach out to me and get that information. Well, other teams started needing that information from training to parking for badging, in recruiting, things like that. So I actually gave them different views for the different data that they need. Well, this was a little side project that I was doing just because I thought, there needs to be a better way. I didn't realize how many people were relying on that information until one day I saw a critical email of an outage because the system that I designed went offline. And I didn't realize that people were using it that much. So people were scrambling, trying to find who owns this application, who can fix this, who can bring it back up online. Well, I had to write an interesting recap to the CISO and the CIO stating that this was a little side project and it was running on a 10-year-old desktop machine under my computer under my desk in the office, and the cleaning people bumped it and unplugged it. So needless to say, the next day it was running on some web servers and it was full DR. So that was a lesson learned. Now, going back to our telecom team, that didn't really solve their issue. That just provided some information. So what I wanted to do is, okay, how can we automate this? How can we, make their lives better and easier? Because what they were doing is they were printing reams of paper and going home and just generating phone numbers. It's not just phone numbers. It was phone numbers, mobile numbers, like agent IDs and skills. If bankers could speak different languages, all of these things. So there's about 6 number related items per employee that they were onboarding. So we needed to automate this. And I had a very successful automation project, made their lives a lot easier. So now all they had to do is just kind of do tweaks here and there. They were able to go out and support people and build out the infrastructure. So now I was a victim of my own success at this point. My boss came to me and said, "Hey, great job with this, these projects that you're doing, but our PAM admin had left the company. And I want you to take over this PAM tool." And I thought, well, PAM, I've heard of it before. And he's like, it's like an encrypted spreadsheet for passwords. That's what he told me. So I thought, don't we have a way to store passwords? Next slide, please. Sticky notes, right? We've all been there. We've walked around the company and seen all these sticky notes on people's monitors with passwords. And if you wanted to, have them encrypted, they were under your keyboard. And people had notepad documents on their computers, like encrypted spreadsheets. We were failing audits because of this. And I thought, this is crazy. We're protecting billions of dollars in assets, and people weren't using a centralized privileged access program to store their passwords safely. Next, please. So I decided to dig in. I wanted to figure out what's going on with all of our privileged accounts. So I started off in an exercise and tried to figure out what accounts are out there. Because how many times has a developer came to you and said, "Hey, we're creating this project. I need a service account." So you generate a service account. And then they say, "Okay, well, it doesn't have the right permissions. Can you give it more? Can you give it more?" Just incrementally over and over. Finally, you have like an AD admin that goes, "All right, here's practically domain admin permissions on it." And I said, "Thanks, that worked." Well, not only is that for development account, you have a test account, you have a prod account, and then a while later, they say, "Okay, that project's done. We didn't proceed with it," and you just have that service account laying out there dormant. Well, I've never had one developer come back to me and say, "We're done with the project. You can delete these accounts." So now we have all these accounts out there. You don't have any visibility into those accounts. So I decided to run a PowerShell script based on last logon date and over a certain amount of time. And I was able to find over 1,000 accounts that were laying dormant out there. And those were potential attack vectors, every single one of those. And going back to what Matt had said about the breaches, they just log on. So I worked with the help desk team. We sent out awareness emails to saying that we were going to be disabling these accounts. So we disabled in chunks, waited for any blowback, and then I just deleted them. So over those 1,000 accounts, those accounts, many of them were in systems consuming licenses. Well, those licenses, they cost money. So overall, that cost tens of thousands of dollars that I saved just by getting rid of those accounts. And that's something I encourage everybody out there that has the ability to do so, to just run that exercise, just to see. Next, please. So this is my life now. This is my PAM view, basically. So I was living in this day in and day out. It was highly manual. I was based off of help desk tickets, emails, calls, shoulder taps. Hey, can you give me access to this safe? Can you modify these groups? Can you add this Active Directory group to provide access to this safe? Can you delete these people? I was governing all of these safe extremely manual. It was taking so much time. I couldn't do anything else at this point. Next, please. So this is the general journey I was doing. So we were also deploying we were replacing a governance tool. So at this point it was, okay, how can I make it world-class? So integration, you need to identify the authoritative source for user records. Now, we went from I think it was something like 30 different authoritative sources to one. So this is the best way that I've found to do it. And people could be different. You know, your organization could be different. We went from, instead of pulling directly from HR, we went to a view and we would pull from the database view. The nice thing about that is if you have a separate contractor management system, you would just have your DBA flow that data into that view, and SailPoint wouldn't know, okay, well, that's HR data and this one's not. It just thinks it's just one HR system. The nice thing about that is you can manipulate kind of your conditions and things like that, and clean the data up at the database level. And also if you replace, you know, your HR system, you just have it feed directly to that view. So it's all nice and clean, garbage in, garbage out. So you need to have clean user data. Again, that might not work for you, but that's the one that worked the best in my case. Safe management. How do you want to control your safes? The reason why I got really into PAM is because the current implementation was done by teams, which makes sense, right? Like you have a safe, you join the company and your team has this safe and it has these credentials for your applications that your team owns. Well, we started to fail some audits because they said, this is a little crazy that your help desk admin that controls the help desk tool is on the same team as your domain admins and they have access to the domain. So I figured this is better just to start over. Let's start over. Let's build it by application. So anybody that needs application access to that safe, then they get thrown into a group or what have you. But what I ended up doing was going to those app owners, creating the safe, and I was standing up a separate environment alongside. So this is a new environment. And I started to migrate them, their apps, and then start using this URL, this new one. And I just rinse and repeat and stood up a whole new system, a clean, correct way. So you could be different. This is definitely each business could, you know, do it separately or do it differently, I should say. But by and large, do it by application is probably the best way to manage your safes, or I'm sorry, to structure your safes. And also, you need to wrap around access control around it. So have the proper approvals when somebody's requesting access. You know, the safe has more more privileges. So you want to maybe have an extra level of approval. And role creation. You definitely want to utilize IIQ or SailPoint's role binding capabilities. I like to do the 80-20 rule. So if based off of these attributes, maybe department or title or what have you, 80% of the people that have that match this criteria have this access, and you would create a role based off of that. And then at this point, you would want to pair those systems, integrate your governance tool with your privilege access tool, so you could leverage the best of both worlds. Next, please. So there's two main ways to integrate your privileged access management tool with your governance tool, SailPoint. First was Active Directory. This is the route I took. You know, SailPoint can do Active Directory. It's the bread and butter. So you would just simply have a Active Directory group paired with the safe, so people could just request access to that Active Directory group, and they would get access to that safe. You would tie, like I'd mentioned before, you would tie that Active Directory group to a role. So if, you know, people get in that role, they would get that Active Directory group and they would get access to that safe. It's requestable, multiple layers of approval as you need. Now there are some cons to that though, and I quickly found that out. As I had mentioned, I inherited that PAM system. So just going through like the day-to-day, I was cleaning up and saw Holiday Party 2008. That was actually controlling access to a safe. Well, if you're running a certification campaign and your manager sees the Holiday Party 2008, he or she would say, you know, that's fine. But they would have no idea that that's controlling access to a safe. And also, if you have, say, a PAM administrator, a backup one, or what have you, went in directly to the safe and added someone directly, you would have no insight into that just by using Active Directory integration. So there was a lot of cons that I saw to this. It worked, it was quick to spin up, but since I was building a separate instance of my PAM vault, I figured, well, let's try this PAM module that we have with IAQ. So I started to plug into that. Now, the nice thing about that is it was full transparency. You could see who is in the safe, no matter how they were put in. It was basically, this is the safe contents. And it was a nice single pane glass view, full transparency. You could see secrets, users, groups, you could see everything. Next, please. So SailPoint got together with their partners and other developers and developed a skim extension for PAM. The nice thing about that is you could use any PAM vendor to integrate within SailPoint as long as they support skim. And the current version is 2.0. So as long as they support that, then you can integrate into SailPoint. Next, please. So I went from this vault view to this nice slick view. So each little square on the right-hand side you see here in SailPoint is a safe. So you have total identities, you have groups, you have privileged items. Privileged items are your secrets. The groups are the groups that control the access to each safe. And then you could simply click on manage, and then you could manage, you can add additional access to the people that are already in that safe. You could see the groups that are controlling the safe. You could remove people that have access to that safe. And then you could see how many privileged items, secrets that are in that safe. So it's all a nice single pane glass view here. Next, please. So once we're integrated, you have full PAM capabilities. It's a nice user-friendly view to instead of just that vault view. You can actually have meaningful reports. You can actually see, okay, this person has access to this. They shouldn't have that anymore. You know, when you're running your certifications, and you have much more insight as opposed to just Active Directory. You can wrap it around approval flows. You can have separation of duties. So you can see this is a toxic combination between these two different safes. We need to act upon it. Self-service requests. You can empower your users to request access to the safes that they need, wrap it around with the approvals that I was mentioning. But the nice thing is it reduces help desk calls. So no longer do you have to keep calling the help desk to get access to that secret. A lot of times the help desk might not know, or you might not know what access you need. You know, I need access to the thing with the stuff, and they wouldn't know what that is. So when you wrap it around with the automation by role membership, you don't even have to use self-service or even call the help desk at all. You just have access day one when you get out of your training or what have you. So that definitely increases efficiency. So I got to thinking, I wrapped around the PAM module and our PAM application, so it's all integrated. I was able to grant the PAM administrator capability within SailPoint to a trusted entity. So they handled the run and maintain at that point. So now I was free to think, how else can I make things better? You know, what can I do to have a world-class system to secure our enterprise? And I was thinking about all of these things. Next, please. So what happened next? I surveyed our users. I wanted to see how are you using your passwords? Can we stop you from using passwords? Basically, let's get rid of these passwords to have to use them essentially. Yes, we have to have them in our systems, but can we stop user interaction? Can we stop interacting with username and passwords? So the first quick win was the web password filler. Our help desk was in and out of different web apps all the time. So I deployed the web password filler. They loved it. And what the benefit of that is that started to drum up support and buzz about PAM and IGA tools. So I also went with the protocol launcher. So if you go into your safe and then you see the secrets that you want to, the accounts that you want to use, you would simply hit connect, and you would have an option for SSH or PuTTY and RDP. So you click on connect, you put in the host name, or you can restrict the host names to only be able to use this account on these systems, or free-form text to put in the account host that you want to connect to. Click connect, and then all of a sudden you're in. So this increased efficiency. The sysadmins loved it. I loved it. That was one of the main features that I absolutely loved. But you can tie other tools just to that protocol launcher. So you can have session monitoring. So if somebody launches that secret and connects to their endpoint, it would record what they're doing. And they would have basically like a DVR playback, essentially. So when auditors come and they say, hey, what were you doing 6 months ago on the system when you used the secret? I would have no idea. And the nice thing is that it helps the system admin, because they don't have to be worried about trying to recall what they did. The auditor can just go to the playback and watch for him or herself. You would have that nice audit trail of who did what with what secret. Did they view it? Did they check it out? How did they use it? Just-in-time access with approvals is great, because then you could tie, I want to use this secret for this day on this date for this amount of time. You can wrap different layers of approval and go up the chain. And then once somebody uses it and then they check it out, check it back in, that password gets cycled. So it's a new password at that time. All of this wraps around a ticketing system too, because you can have ticket numbers associated with checking in and checking out these passwords, or I'm sorry, just-in-time access. All of this increased efficiency, because you're using these protocol launchers. Now you don't have to go between websites, copy, paste, and that was the wrong one. All of this increased productivity. Next, please. And Matt.
So as you all can tell, Zach's pretty deep into the privileged access management world and has paid a lot of the scars. So hopefully walking through kind of his journey, building that out for the financial management systems and some of his best practices that he found over time helps everybody as they're planning to move forward with the integrations and migrations. A lot of agencies already have these tools in place and quickly threw them out there really at the beginning of the cyber sprint 8+ years ago. It might be closer to 10 now that I think about it, but and they got out there and they kind of just exist. And hopefully today you saw there's a better way to support them. And especially as we're moving forward with things like RPAs and IoT devices, those are all privileged accounts, non-person entities that talk to each other. So really is a great time to start looking at, especially as we're moving forward with zero trust and the executive orders. These are the highest risk accounts in your organization. So really at the end of the day, you're looking to bring an integrated journey where you've got all of your requests, your approvals, your auditing, your certifications, all of your policy management, all of your visibility into a centralized tool. And then all of those additional features that Zach talked about with the privilege management side on how to validate and approve all of them. So, so that covers it for today's presentation. Let me see if any questions came in for the crew. Our next presentation will be on managing permissions and access to Kubernetes and services running on Kubernetes next month, which I know is a very hot topic right now, and not a lot of best practices out there yet. So we have found some, just like this session, some good and bad ways to do it. So we will share that next time. So one question that did come in, Zach, and I'll let you take this. Do you have any suggestions for increasing user adoption with the PAM tools?
Sure. The first thing that I did was I got with our security folks and we ran used our logging tool and wanted to look at, okay, who's using KeyPass or LastPass and these Bitwarden. And then from there, I sent out emails saying, hey, you should use SailPoint and you should use PAM, and created accounts, had them request access. And then that really drove adoption up. I just kind of had a campaign, and also with our training teams, use SailPoint and request access to PAM, and this is how you do it. So between logging and from the get-go, the training teams made sure that that was wrapped into the training.
Awesome. And then time for one more here, because we did just hit the 30-minute mark. Can you hide certain users or safes from showing up within the PAM dashboard? Obviously, a lot of times with customers, there's, I'm guessing this is where this came from, sensitive things that are going on, and sensitive safes and topics that you want to hide, so that and not let everybody see. So is there a good way to manage and govern that?
Absolutely. That was one of the first things I wanted to dive into. So different vendors have different ways to handle it. So there's configuration files to hide these safes and users, where others, the skim protocol, or I'm sorry, the skim interface is done by reports. So you would need to alter that report that gets called to hide those certain users and groups, or safes, I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, that's great. Yeah, my head's spinning now, because you could probably also do that through policies on the IGA side, which, yeah. Anyways, see, this is when you get to tech guys on the phone. So with that, I will be quiet and stop trying to make solutions on the call. We'll go back to the Uber Labs and do that. So at this point, I'll turn it back to the Carahsoft team to roll out. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you both, Matt and Zach, for being here with us today. We hope this information you received during today's webinar has been helpful for both you and your organization. As a reminder, everybody will receive a recording of the presentation and a follow-up email. If you have any further questions, please don't hesitate to call or email us. Thank you all, and have a great rest of your day.